here. It was cold yesterday night.
That's a good turnout.
Yes. Yes.
I was sick for around Christmas.
You can't try and convince us because we're board members. But you can ask me questions.
So the only question for this was a 3-2 vote.
Yes.
Being the full.
It's a 7-member board. We had
I'll move.
You're fine. I was trying to get stuff done. I got lots to do in a minute. Yeah. I want to make sure I'm all right.
Dr. Bothwell's right here. Dr. Bothwell's sitting here. There you go.
Is there a tree out there? That's the one.
Mr. Todd, how are you, sir? But you know what? It's all right. You know, as you recall, I was on that journey for many years, trying to decide which has more action to it. I'm not sure.
Hey, how we doing, Chuck? Yeah, these guys.
Yeah.
You want me to get you a chair? You want this? She went to get me one. Okay. I'll just sit right here on the end if you split the ring. Oh, I'm getting all the room I give you. Yeah, there you go. Oh, no. Chair. Here it comes.
Follow behind.
Mine what? I'll get sleepy in there. Okay, how you doing? Have you? I just got off of the quarantine Saturday from COVID. Didn't hit me as hard as standing room again. It's had pneumonia 2 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's the football game tonight or
I know, that starts here just in a little bit.
is it on library, so I'll be able to watch it.
Well, I'm going to tell you this story.
Yeah, we hope you can.
I've been sick more in the last 2 months than I have in 20 years.
Don't do that, it's great.
I've been sick more in the last 2 months than I've been in 20 years. Just, it's all virus.
I would hope we're not hearing that all.
Yes, sinuses and throat. Yeah, my brother-in-law came over Christmas Eve. Was having
Ryan.
family get together, and he knew he was sick. He likes to hug everybody, so he got half the family. I had my 3 daughters was going to get together on New Year's and do our gift exchange. We still got all the presents and the tree because we didn't like it. So we gave it to us.
I know.
I did my quarantine thing, and I'm okay. I was okay Saturday, so I won't breathe on that.
Oh, that's all right. I've already had it. I'm just getting over it. These last couple of days, I finally felt like myself again.
I tried salmon called elderberry and stuff, Walgreens. It's the whether you can get the pill forms, the pills that we have sinuses. The sinus up a little bit would relieve that head pressure. I didn't get sick of my stomach this last time.
Yeah.
I didn't have none of that.
I haven't had that, but man, I've just been so congested. Yeah. Joints ache. Yeah. Sounds like the same stuff.
It's
Oh, because of the holidays.
Well,
The new commissioner was supposed to be here.
yeah, how they see him.
First Monday.
I don't see him.
It's hard to get myself.
I know who he is, but I haven't never met him. I have a nice little letter for him. So, it's actually for the brother. That's right. Yeah, he's not here. Maybe not. Yeah. Well, I realize they're not there.
Yeah, 40 to 50 mile an hour wind. Let's try it, place out there.
Here, everybody's back.
Going anywhere without my walker. With a walker. With that team.
Are we ready? All right, we'll get this meeting started for January 8th, Area Planning Commission meeting. We'll stand for a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Like I said, the infection was bad, but got her on the leg now, so. we got- Working on it now.
Hey, Nicole, I guess, call the roll, please.
Yep, certainly are. So we'll see you Wednesday, 11:30. If we don't get blown away off here,
Atkins.
Yes.
Bothwell. Royals.
yeah, well, or Gainesville.
Connell?
Yes.
Gainesville.
Cows.
Wildwood.
Hicks. Hunt.
Okay. All right,
Nevers.
all right, bye-bye.
Knuckles.
Here.
Pearson.
Here.
Todd.
Here.
Stewart. Breedy.
Here. Okay, so we got 8, so we should be good to start. Okay, as what we do at first meeting of January is re-elect our officers, presidents, vice presidents, BZA appointments or reaffirmation, and advisory committee appointments. Before we get started, I will say that I am not going to accept any nomination for any leadership position. This will probably, or will be my last meeting. Sweetser Town Council will be appointing somebody different at this Thursday meeting. So that's their anticipation. So I am, as people know, I am anticipating to move. Our family goals is to retire in about a year and a half, year and a quarter. In Tennessee, we have started the process of selling our house. It's been always my family's position is to sell before we build. Because we've had some bad luck in selling houses up to a year and a half, and we just do not feel comfortable. So we will rent. So that is, our rental is outside the limits of Sweetser also. So either way, I'd be gone within the next few meetings, hopefully. So I would not be able to stay anyway. So I don't even want to be considered because it would not be fair. Then maybe do it for a month or two, and then you guys have to decide somebody else. So I am not interested, or well, you take me out of contention. So with that, I know one consensus was to step down and let the VP do it, but if I'm not up, you want just to do it from here and we'll go? We'll open the floor up for nominations for president area plan. Do we have any nominations for president of area plan commission?
Nominate Mr. Randy Atkins.
And we got a nomination for Atkins, Randy Atkins. You have a second? You're going to second too? Second to the power. All right, are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing no nominations, we need to take a roll. The motion, would you get that turn off?
We can. Bill, can you turn off your mic, please?
Bill, who is online, can you please turn your mic off or mute yourself, please?
I have a particular favorite. It's called In the
We can't even kick him out. We can't mute it.
I know.
Phone number. Give him a call.
Okay. You already made the nominate or motion. Gary Cardell.
Thank you.
Story.
Any other nominations? I think there was none, so we're going to do a roll call.
Atkins?
Yes.
Boswell?
Yes.
I guess it's been so much fun.
Cottle?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Knuckles?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Yes.
You,
Yes.
okay. Reedy?
Yes. I agree.
I'll tell you what,
All right, you get to swing on over here, sir.
this is with my wife on, that's if I can get on and let me see.
It updated and it's not the
Yeah, I think I am now. I am on. Yep. Sorry.
Thank you.
Somebody around. Well, maybe. Big in, but sure.
It's gotta be good here.
You stepped in while you didn't belong.
you all button and I don't have that anymore. No, it won't let me. It
Shall we try to continue? All right, we'll try to continue. I want to thank everyone for their support. I want to thank Chuck for the services that he's given to the Grant County Area Planning Commission through the years that he's been here. I am an educator, so educators, we specialize in receiving information and sharing that. And educators have missions, so I want to read my mission that I'd like to provide here to serve the Area Planning Commission. My mission is to serve the citizens and residents of Grant County by supporting zoning decisions that are believed to be in the best interest of all parties that are impacted. I also seek to bring transparency to this commission with the hope of creating a trusting relationship between residents and this commission. So I hope I can fulfill that, and I hope that's something that the other commission members could adopt as well. So with that being said, Chuck, I'm going to ask you to help me with anything that I may not be doing procedurally tonight. And David, please help me if there's anything that goes on illegal that I may not be aware of. So with that being said, we'll open the floor for nominations for Vice President of the Grant County Area.
Oh, you still get it off, just get it off, just turn it off.
Bill is sharing his. That's what messed us up.
31 for 22. We're 90.
Nominations for the presidency. Vice President, do we have a
Now
second?
we're interfering with the county.
Motion made by Jerry Cottle, seconded by Frank Hicks. Any other nominations for Vice President? No other recommendations or no other nominations made. Roll call vote, please.
Bothwell?
Yes.
Reedy?
Yes.
Royals? Or, sorry, Cottle?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Knuckles?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, congratulations. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item in the agenda, BZA appointments. We have two of them to reaffirm. Ryan, could you help us with that, please?
Just still want to do it.
And
That's all we're asking.
and those would be? Myself and John?
Yep.
What do you think, John? We just went through one. Are you okay?
We'll make it.
All right, we will do that. Thank you.
Question, if I may, please. I have no problem with what we're doing, other than, is there a need for reaffirmation? This has never happened before.
We did it last year too, just to ask the members.
Is there a
just
reason for us to?
just to
do
ask
that?
them.
I would think they're appointed until removed, I would think. But anyway,
I just asked-
just a question for procedure down the
Okay.
road to think about it.
So, okay, Ryan, so if we did not take this step, then if John or I did not want to be on the BZA, then we would have to speak forward and make you
Right.
aware of that?
Right.
Okay, all right, I think that helps us. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion of advisory committee appointments of the executive committee.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, your executive committee's not on there. We need to look at that, and then also the advisory committee too.
Okay. Now, considering, we have at least two more members coming on board, would that be correct? A representative from,
Well, you've got, Ron Stewart was appointed by the commissioners. We'll have a new one from Sweetser, a new one from Jonesboro, and a new one from Fairmount, so you got 4.
okay, it would be my suggestion that we wait until this commission becomes complete before we move forward with that. All right, item 4, approval of the minutes. We'll first take a
Mr.
look.
President, we do need to have an appointment for the advisory. It first meets the 29th.
That's the technical advisory.
Yeah, your technical advisory committee.
Okay. Am I automatically on that?
Can be.
I want
It's,
to.
it's a member of the, we have a member of the APC, a member of the council commissioners. Yeah, so,
Oh, yeah, there's a whole list of
Now,
them.
this
Yeah.
is a technical advisory committee that's also going to include a representative from the highway department. and-
Right.
And on down the line, okay.
right.
I definitely would like to serve on that committee.
I, again, have a question about that. That's not something that we've ever done before.
Right.
It's a brand new kind of thing. I don't think we've had an opportunity to discuss that as to why now, what's the purpose, who's there.
We
One
spoke
of my
about it.
concerns about that for us is this another layer of bureaucracy that we would need to go through and perhaps utilize the expertise of the people who are on that committee. They're called an advisory committee, but if they were to come back and to advise something that we would, prefer if they didn't do, it sets up another possibility for confrontation kind of thing. So, or is it there for the purpose of perhaps weakening the authority of this? So I know it's provided for in legislation that we can do that, but I don't, and apparently it's not something that's absolutely necessary. So anyway, I would like for us to have time to, at another time, at another meeting, to have an opportunity to discuss the necessity of doing that.
Can I answer that? Mr.
I
President?
would like to know what role the commission may play in regard to the technical
This-
advisory committee.
The technical advisory committee has been in our ordinance since at least 2000. We have discussed it and its membership in at least 2 of our rules of procedure meetings.
I agree with that.
So this is devised, and let me read it, because this is what we as a group approved. Technical Advisory Committee shall be responsible for review of all petitions for subdivision plat approval, subdivision plat amendment, and commercial wind and solar energy systems. And through our special meeting for the rules, which we're going to discuss later on tonight, it was added, minor subdivision, minor plat amendments, and minor commercial wind and solar systems may, we discussed shall and may, between big and small, be given to the Technical Advisory Committee if deemed necessary by the Executive Director. The Technical Advisory Committee, under the direction and coordination of the Area Plan Director, shall act in a timely fashion but will not be constrained by time in matters that may require additional professional services such as engineers, architects, or studies. Technical Advisory Committee shall meet within 30 days of the receipt of any petition. Technical Advisory Committee shall be responsible for ensuring completion of all application requirements prior to presentation to the Area Plan Commission. So this is something that we have had in place since, again, 2020, but we've never convened it. And talking to, well, Jim, you've been surveyor for how long? You're a member of the Technical Advisory Committee. How many times have you met?
Well, none. I thought I was took off of that.
No, that's the Executive Committee.
Okay.
These are put together for larger projects to go over drainage. It's for the surveyor, drainage board, highway superintendent, members of either commissioner or town board for the legislative body, a member of the fiscal board. It is Grant County Soil and Water, Highway Department, or Health Department, I'm sorry, emergency management, and any other representative as deemed necessary.
Question about that, again, I would like for us to have an opportunity to discuss this at length. You know, this is all new for some of us, except for those people that were on your committee for rules and regulations, that kind of thing. We need to have an opportunity to talk about that. For example, the shall and the may. It would seem that just those words, even though you chose may, that would, you're saying that this technical committee can bypass this commission in certain instances. And you talked about plats. So, in fact, one thing I'd like to ask about, you named subdivision plats as one. As I understand it, that's one of the very few areas where area plan actually has authority, where we're not making recommendations to the commissioner. We actually have decision-making authority in subdivision, correct?
Right.
The other one that I understand where we have that is a CAFO, contained animal feeding operation, and that was not mentioned there. So why would one of our areas where we have authority be a part of that and might be given over to your new commission and not to, I'm wondering about a contained animal feeding operation. We were told, and I think maybe, Mr. Holloway, are you here with us tonight? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we were told that we had, authority. I can't find in the statute anything that says that we had authority over CAFO. So I'm thinking some of that language, if that's true, probably needs to be entered into this. At this point, we don't have time here this evening. Anyway, there are some questions, and it just may be my ignorance. I accept the fact that I don't know about this. But before I can accept this, I need to know about that, and I think we need to have an opportunity as an entire group to be able to discuss it further, ask questions, etc., before we convene and begin in this. One of my concerns is that we're bringing this up right now because we've got solar that is out there, which I'm presuming most of these folks out here are about. I don't know what the implication is for that, or why we're showing this. We've got to do this right now. But anyway, I'd like to have an
Can
opportunity.
I answer that too?
Ryan, do you anticipate the usage of the Technical Advisory Committee here in the near future?
Yes. And I have actually sent emails twice to this entire body wanting to get this together so that we didn't get surprised. This is just an initial get-together so that I can sit down with everyone and let them know what it is. We are not approving anything. We are making sure that the application is complete prior to me presenting anything to you guys.
What application are we talking about?
Subdivision, solar, wind, plat amendment. They were gonna give it to the highway department to okay road use agreements.
I mean, at this point in time, I know we put more, in fact, that's another question that I have. I don't understand why there's a moratorium. And the rules and regulations, the reason that we started this, Mr. Breedy will remember 5 years ago, was we have findings of fact that pretty much prevent us from having any kind of additional CAFOs. We've got 13. We've had no problems with them at all, but because of the language that we have with findings of fact and not being able to move to a second hearing without prejudice, that has resulted in real problems for us, including 2 different lawsuits. And that's not been addressed yet. We've asked the attorney, Mr. Person has asked several times to address that. We're probably going to need Mr. Glickfield to take a look at that. But the bottom line is that we are not, at this point, in a position that we can even consider contained animal feeding operation. And I think that needs, apparently, to be added here. Why would we not have that added into this kind of thing? There's just lots of questions. And I don't mean to be a problem, but I do need for us to have full knowledge of what we're going into and why it's happening. So this thing with application, we have to get this done right now because there's an application coming up. What is that application?
We do not have an application coming up, but we have to meet within 30 days of an application being turned in.
So you're
Which means
anticipating that we're going to have an application for what?
It could be a year from now, it could be tomorrow. I want to get these people together because this leaves everyone from not having to scramble to find their representatives. We spoke about this for 2.5 hours at our special meeting.
Okay, wait a minute. I understand that we've talked about it in rules and procedures, but considering Mr. Bothwell's concerns, I also don't know that this commission, other than those of us who have sat on the rules and procedures review, actually have an understanding of what the role and function of that technical committee might be. So
Our
with that
special
being,
meeting, we just had 2 weeks ago. We had a special meeting 2 weeks ago.
we had a special meeting about the rules and procedures on the 18th.
Right.
Okay, but what I'm saying is I don't know that there was the degree of understanding or questioning opportunities that Mr. Bothwell is asking for so that we can have an understanding of the role of this. So considering that, since there isn't any applications coming to our table, Bob, are you suggesting that we discuss this at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody opposed to that?
We may be discussing it later today if we go through rules and procedures.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've got invites out in this room scheduled for the 29th.
Okay, you haven't scheduled a date,
Yeah.
okay?
And I've sent information out, that's why I sent 2 emails out. We talked at the last meeting about it. I've got okay until now.
So you sent those invites out without having that
we-
complete, knowing that we just now placed me on that committee.
Right.
So how would you have known who to send those to?
I sent it to all the organizations because everyone has their appointments in January and their elections in January, to put that as part of their appointments.
Okay.
Because we've already discussed, am I wrong?
No, we just, may I speak?
Sure.
So we did discuss this. It is part of our current rules and procedures. We just reviewed it, affirmed that there appears to be a possible need in the near future. And when an application comes in, the county has to act in due time. And if we are scrambling after that comes in to try to get these people to help analyze at least the beginning phases of an application, we're not doing our duty.
Okay,
So like the highway department, everybody's gonna have a section, they will give recommendations towards a final completion of an application before it comes to us that all the Ts and dots are correct.
has that information been prepared to give to these different entities that are gonna be part of this technical advisory committee?
I'm still working on it.
Oh, you're still working?
I'm going to take Posey County and take one of their solar applications and divide it out.
So if you don't have that complete, what would be the purpose to have a meeting at this time?
Because that, no one on this committee knows the committee exists, even though it's within our ordinance. And it's getting them together, letting them know what their responsibilities are, letting them know that we have to act in it. Although we're not constrained by time, we have to meet within the first 30 days, which would basically be delving out whatever application it is. It's just making sure we don't get blindsided.
Okay, could that information be disseminated to them through a email or text rather than an actual meeting? Since you're not fully prepared to provide them with what they're gonna need to do.
3 weeks, I worked for this meeting, following this meeting, I was going to work towards that one, because we have a scoring committee meeting too, the Friday before.
Okay, we need to bring some closure to this. Does the commission want to make a motion in regard to how we want to deal with this? Do we want to allow Ryan to proceed? Do we want to honor Bob's concerns? Where are we at?
I think it needs to proceed so that all entities know that what their potential responsibilities are, whether it be solar, wind, subdivisions, whatever they need to know, so we can run more efficiently. That's one thing that this, as a whole, efficiency and proper procedures and good information has been lacking. So this is one more tool to help us when it comes to be making a decision. Hopefully, if we have a question about whatever application, the highway department says, yes, this looks good, we agree with this, we gotta move this, we didn't like that, and move this, so we're okay with that, rather than us, in the past, never having any input from all these different entities.
Okay, I want to remind everyone in the commission that we are still sitting on an action that was taken in December of 2022 in regard to, there was at least an 8 vote to have all, have the solar application held until it was reviewed and approved by this commission. So if that action occurred, Mr. Glickfield, would you say that that action remains until it has been rescinded or dealt with?
Let me just back up just a hair. Although I appreciate Dr. Bothwell's layers of government comment, which I think is fantastic that he's thinking that way, all this committee's doing is making recommendations. The vote is always going to be here. So the easy, and I'll get to answer your question in just a second. The easy example to look at is a subdivision. If someone wants to file a subdivision, the people on here are people who need to have some input in that subdivision. Executive Director of Area Plans, kind of in charge. The surveyor and or member of Drainage Board. Is there any drainage issues for this subdivision? The county surveyor, the highway superintendent, the entrance, egress into this subdivision, these roads, or do they meet county specs? What specs do they need to have? How thick does it have to be? What base needs to be on the road? Representative for the legislative body, commissioner and or town board, to me that probably should be a commissioner. Fiscal body, county councils are going to be any type of tax abatement that says for soil and water conservation, is anything be done in soil and water? Health department, is there any septic issues? EMA, emergency vehicles, do they have adequate room to get in and out? Any other representative, which is where you probably would come in as president. So to answer your question with that backdrop, knowing that committee's only making a recommendation and the vote still has to come to you gentlemen to pass. Yeah, I was not here then. I don't, 22 you said, right?
Correct. December.
If a motion was made and approved to hold, then I don't know how, I mean, that's a valid motion if that was done.
Okay.
If that
So
answers
I
your
just want to
question.
remind everyone that we still have that in front of us. And I know, Ryan, we've heard that it's dependent on the software. We've heard that it's in the ordinance. I think that but besides that, I was also provided by you a application checklist when this came up back in 2022, and it's hard for me to understand why we have an application checklist without an application. So I think we're gonna have to deal with this application issue at another meeting in greater detail. Because it's hard for me to believe that there's not gonna be some form of an application that's going to accompany fees and other things as an application comes in, regardless of what that application may be for.
That's our inter-office checklist, and remember, I set it down when you asked me to. And you very recently asked me to pick it up and get it finished. So I picked it up and got it finished. I'm not sure of the question.
You picked up and finished what? I'm not aware of
The checklist.
Okay, has that been issued to us?
Yeah.
To all of us?
Like last meeting, the meeting
Did
before?
you guys receive an application checklist?
That's what's got me bothered.
I did.
I'm not saying.
I put
you
it down
didn't.
and never touched it. And you said we probably need to get that completed. That's
I don't
where that
recall
come
that.
from.
That'll be, for another discussion. I got a question for David. So David, at the bottom of what you just read, where it says that any other members that may be necessary, so would it be safe to assume that depending on what the need for that committee to meet is for, it might be that there could be additional members added to that?
Potentially, yes,
Okay,
exactly. But I think as now President Area Plan, it would be very prudent for you to be on the committee.
And I made notes when we get to it later, that I think we need to have someone from the APC. I'd also like to see someone from the BZA. Because this is also gonna be the point during this committee that any variances coming through will be done prior to coming here. So they will be a part of that process. But I've got that for later on
okay.
when we went through it.
Commission, I'm a collaborative leader, so I will greatly depend on your feedback.
So as far as the application you're talking about, I know it's within the ordinance, but you have developed a side-by to make sure everything is checked.
Yeah, I've
I
got,
don't remember seeing it, maybe it's lost.
The application review will be on the next meeting's agenda. Now, let's go with the Technical Advisory Committee. Folks, help me. Questions about that?
I think every part of that, they need to know their responsibilities.
I got teachers I had in my school buildings. You guys will have trouble sitting here without providing feedback. We are a collaborative outfit, and we're gonna need feedback. I know it's been real easy to sit here and just kind of watch things happen. I'm gonna expect more than that from you. So please. John, you got any thoughts?
What if we have a provisional committee until we discuss it further and then can elect the committee after that? Like, so you can have the meeting so we can at least get the information to start with. You know, where we kind of meet Ryan in the middle. He'll still be able to have that meeting and get the information, we can discuss it at the next, our next APC meeting, and then proceed with the, whatever appointment of the committee at that time.
Any questions about that?
Sounds good to me. Sounds all right.
That way it's nothing permanent, just that way at least we can start getting information compiled and figure out, exactly what players need to be there.
well, and with that.
That's the loose end, Ryan, is you really don't know who's gonna be on that committee until that application actually comes in, where we have to decide where that input's gonna come to fulfill whatever that is.
And that's what I'm facilitating. So we would look at it and know, and, like with solar, we know we're gonna have BZA involved, because they're gonna be variances. We know we need a road use agreement, we know we need emergency management agreement, we know we need vegetation, which would be soil and water and health. We know we're gonna need all these things. what I'd like to do is sit down, if we look at Posey County, that's the one I've shared with the Drainage Board and such, it's about this high, the whole application development. Part of that is gonna go to you, part of that's yours, part of that's yours. That goes, the drainage plan will go to the Drainage Board, and they will hash it out until they come back and say, okay, here's what we've got, we're okay with this drainage.
Is your plan to submit that to these folks ahead of the application?
Submit it to who?
To the Technical Advisory Committee,
That's
to the
what they're
highway?
there for.
Huh?
That's what they're there for. So in the first 30 days of me receiving the application, I've got to say, here's your drainage, here's your emergency management, here's your,
So are you telling me that if we meet, you've asked for a meeting date, correct?
right.
Are you planning to submit that information to those different entities at that meeting? Even though we haven't received a solar application?
Right. It's more just setting down, saying, here's the process. Because we've also got.
I'm
we're gonna have-
opposed, I'm okay with you sharing the process with them, but I think you're, the cart's before the horse if you plan to actually give them in anticipation of an application being received.
As an example only is what I was going to
Thank
use.
you.
I don't have to use it at all.
Okay.
It was just, actually, my thought was to put it in the middle and just say, here's what we're going to be handed. And we've got to get through this to get it to the area plan.
Is the solar one the only preparation that you have? The solar one is the only one you plan to have prepared ready?
It's the one I can hit print. And I've got it saved and can hit print on it. That's the only reason I got it. But we've got to talk to them about when we.
I have some reservations about that. Is
I
there
think-
any other example you could provide to the technical
I
committee?
don't have to use an example at all.
Okay.
I'm going to say, you're going to get the drainage, you're going to get the,
Yes, I'm okay with that.
so, the other thing is with the money that comes in, when we get initial money for the application, we'll get $10,000 of an application fee. So, Drainage Board needs an engineer. They'll hire an engineer. All of that comes back through us. And we bill it. We set up an account with the auditor. And whatever anyone else uses, all comes back through us. So it's explaining the money process, if you've got to go out and hire a specialist, how all that works.
Okay, I'm okay with, in the event that we would receive an application and the need to activate this technical advisory committee, that you can share with them what their roles may be. To provide documentation in advance of an application, I am not okay with.
That's fine.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please, go. We don't. I'm gonna serve the people.
Here's part of my concern, that I guess it's gonna be under rules, regulations, that what you're gonna do tonight somewhere, talking about technical advisory committee. And this is the part where it says may. In black is technical advisory committee shall be responsible for review of all petitions for subdivision plat approval, subdivision plat amendment, and commercial wind or solar energy systems. Now, added to that in red is minor subdivisions, minor plat amendments, and minor commercial wind or solar energy systems may be given to the technical advisory committee if deemed necessary by the executive director. Now, if that is not a bypass of this group, you know, what's that language say? That we're going to turn over to the advisory committee if the executive director, and again, I hate for this to be personalized.
Bob,
But how can,
for the sake of time, I'd like to at least
We're
share
gonna be
my
putting this in
perspective
there?
on the rules and procedures that we're gonna deal with tonight.
I'm just saying, I don't think that we can
Okay.
deal with those.
Okay, what I am anticipating is when we get to that agenda item, we're going to confirm that the changes have been made in regard to what our December 18th meeting resulted in, and that final copy will be submitted for our review. We will not act on a final decision tonight. I believe it needs to be an intact document for all of us to review. I mean, I was personally very confused at the last meeting because of all the different documents that were floating around. And I understand that Ryan's effort was to try and include the old, the proposed new, and some work that you guys had done, the committee that you served on in the past had done. So I understand that, but that created a lot of confusion. So I don't know whether we're ready to deal with that particular item on the agenda tonight, but that's my perspective on that. But maybe we'll do that when we get there. So, do we have an agreement on the Technical Advisory Committee that, Ryan, you go ahead and pull the group together? You will not provide any sample information to them. You will simply share their role in that committee. Thank you. Everybody agree with that? Do we need a motion? Huh? And I'm on that committee. All right. Let's do some approval of the minutes. December 4th, 2023. Please review those. By the way, this is my birthday. I'm not sure whether this is a gift or a curse, but we're going to get through it. Please review the minutes. December 4th, 2023.
The only line that I see of maybe need a word change is under public input, the very last line. Mr. Boswell stated anyone wanting solar in Grant County should be addressing the commissioners, which is true, and not the APC, as they are the only recommending body, as we are the only a recommending body. We are only a recommending body. Kind of implies that the commissioners are, to me, that the commissioners are the recommending body. Maybe I'm not an English major. They, I think, refers back to commissioners, which really should be referred to us as us only being the recommending body.
Are you proposing how you'd like to have that read, Chuck?
That should be addressing the commissioner, not the ABC, as we are only a recommending body, not they, we. That's what you're applying, right? Because we are just a recommending
I
body.
think that was probably what was implied.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sure it was.
Anybody opposed to that? You okay with that, Nicole, Katie?
Actually, that's not exactly what I was stating. What I was stating was that there was a misperception, I think, by the people who are here again this evening, that this body is one that has decision-making in the ordinance area. The persons that do have decision-making, in fact, I'd like that to be clarified again, are the commissioners. The commissioners are the ones that adopted the ordinance. We had two ordinances that had been presented, and the one that was presented by APC for their consideration was rejected, and another ordinance was the one that was accepted. And in this process, it is the APC's job to hold the public hearings, to face people that would like to come to object, et cetera, and then to make a recommendation, not make a decision, but to make a recommendation to the commissioners. Either, we suggest approval, we suggest non-approval, or we suggest that we make no suggestion. We pass this along to you without recommendation. So those are the three options that we have. And we chose to send them an ordinance that was passed by this group. They chose to reject that and to accept another ordinance. And so that's what I was trying to infer.
How would you like that to read, Bob? Is there a recommendation that you would like to give us for that?
Yeah, just so everybody understands what the inference was, I don't
Okay.
care. Let's just get on.
All right, any other questions in regard to the amendments?
I think we is appropriate.
I think so. That's good.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with a minor adjustment of we instead of they for the, what's this, December 4th meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the approval of the minutes.
Motion by Mr. Brady, second by Mr. Knuckles. Roll call vote.
Brady,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Abstain.
Caudell,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
6.
You need me?
We have seven.
So we need,
All right.
Seven.
Yes. Okay, minutes of the December 18th, 2023 special meeting. The only change I noticed is at roll call vote, we need John Pearson instead of Jim.
No, it's a Jim.
Unless you're a Jim John.
cousin.
Oh, it's your cousin. Okay.
I do have maybe a question for David, and give him guidance on voting on minutes and things like that. We only had 7 at that meeting, and we just had barely a minimum quorum, and 2 of those people are not here today, so there's really people abstain or not present, or we're never gonna pass it. What is your thoughts on approving minutes? I've always been on the thought, you review them, you check them, they look good to you, you can vote yes whether you're here or not, or vote no if you're here or not, or whatever. What's kind of like the,
My preference would be, and I think the safest legal path is if you were not here to abstain. I think that's the safest legal way. The chances of something ever coming up probably are 1% or less. So it's certainly your guys' preference if you want to do it. Legally, I would say the safe way is to abstain if you're not there. But it coming actually into play.
It'll never be officially.
well, it could potentially unless, but I will say that these were all things that we reviewed and had consensus on. It's gonna go into the next, and hopefully almost the final draft, that we're gonna review anyway. So in a way, if they ever get passed, but we know this is what we wanted to put forward, and still under review, it may not make a difference.
So, Mr. Glickfield, how are you recommending that we handle the minutes?
Based on the way Chuck just said it, explained it, I think he's exactly right. It's gonna be coming up again anyway.
Okay.
If you weren't here, you'd go ahead and approve it. For this particular case.
Okay,
He could approve it for this, because it's not a final vote on
Right.
any document. It's just recommendations to build up.
okay, we have a first and a second.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the 18th.
With the exception of Jim becoming John.
Okay, yes, so, correction of the name.
How about a second?
I'll second that.
which one? I had 2.
Let
They
them
both
decide.
said it.
Russian judge to call that one.
Brady,
Yes.
Bothwell,
I wasn't here, I abstained.
Caudell,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Todd,
Abstain.
Atkins.
I was here, yes.
Six, though, I think.
That's still 6.
Okay, at least it's recorded.
Okay. All right, we are moving into item 5, new business and public hearings. Mr. Malott. Would you share the staff
Just,
report with us, please?
Susan Ansel. Would you come on it to the podium, please?
I can't hear you, sir.
We get 7 votes.
Only 6.
So it's actually, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
right up here. Tonight, this is APC docket 01Z-2024, with a hearing date of January 8th, 2024. Petitioner is Susan Ansel. The petition is for a zoning map amendment of rezoning from the current local business to a residential 3 zoning district. Basically, the petitioner is asking that the current local business be rezoned back to R3. This is due to the current occupant relocating their business to another location, but they still want to continue to reside at the current address. Rezoning is needed to apply for a residential conventional mortgage. This was an R3 that got rezoned to a local business. They want to take it back to an R3. That's kind of adjustment for this public hearing.
So, 15 minutes, could you please share with us your wishes?
Well, I own the house in Upland. I purchased it about 8 years or so ago so my son could start his little printing business in Upland, and he did. He did start in that. It was zone LB, and they also lived in that house. They are a family of 5, but his business quickly grew, thankfully, and he's moved twice since then. He's now down, he's still in Upland, down in the old drugstore building, much bigger facility. And I want to part with the property. He wants to buy the property, and it's, as it is zoned, he could not apply for a loan and get a loan, I don't think, for a commercial. It'd be commercial. And as I said, he has a wife, 3 kids, my family. I'd like to see them keep the house. It's affordable to them. And it is a house. It was built as a house 100 years ago or so. How old is that house? 1900. Yeah. And it is a residence. It was a residence then. It still is a residence. He does not have any business in that house now at all. And it's just a simple thing. In my mind, you switch it back and let him have a good life in Upland, Indiana.
Any questions, commissioners, commission members? Mrs. Ansel, any questions? All right, thank you. Anyone opposed?
The public, anybody else for support?
Oh, yes, anybody else in support? Mrs. Ansel's request. Seeing none, anyone opposed? Seeing none, any discussion?
You can close the hearing then.
Close the hearing.
I know in the past, we've done this before. I can remember one on Troy Avenue. I think we might have done another one in the same situation where a property wanted to be sold. It was zoned improper for it to get a mortgage, and I believe we did take care of that issue. Looking at this, it is surrounded more or less by residential. I think there's something maybe behind it on one side for business, but it does, it actually probably maybe eliminates spot zoning. If anything,
I think it's both ways, it's right on the edge.
right, for the borders.
So what is the role of this commission with this situation?
It's a recommendation for,
To Upland?
We have 3 choices, correct? Recommend, not recommend, or deny?
yeah,
Well, no opinion?
No.
If we may,
favorable.
I think it's always appropriate at the end of the public hearing to ask our executive director
Okay.
what his recommendation might be.
Our recommendation is a favorable recommendation.
I would so move.
So we have a motion to recommend.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. We have a second. Mr. Bothwell recommend. Mr. Breedy second. Roll call vote.
Breedy,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Huddell,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
6, 7.
All right, motion passes. Okay, item number 5.2, Mr. Malat, discussion of rezoning Stonecrest Mobile Home Park.
Oh, okay. Again, for those of you who have been around for a little while, we run into a situation again where we get into our zoning maps and our land use tables. We actually have two mobile home parks here. Stonecrest is the one I have on your agenda. In the time between sending packets out, we found out that Fair Oaks out and Fairmount also are zoned in a way, for Stonecrest, they are zoned residential suburban, which would not allow mobile homes to go into. We have 3/4 of Fair Oaks in Fairmount Mobile Home Park that is zoned R3, which again would not allow mobile homes. So I've asked both to come in February to rezone to proper mobile home parks. I'm just bringing it to you, asking if I can bring it forth for a public hearing. They're coming in and filing, but I wanted to bring it to your attention.
Okay.
We've got a couple more. About half of our public hearings, we find out, are due to either improper zoning maps or improper land use tables. Obviously, that's on our list of to-dos. We're kind of getting comp plan done into zoning, or into area-wide ordinance, into land use and zoning maps. So each has a step. As these come up, I try to bring them to you guys so we can correct them as we go before we dive into the whole thing.
So this is considered informational to us.
Yes.
Okay.
Just letting you know. The other thing I would like, and I think it's next on the agenda, to bring in getting into the land use tables for mobile home parks, according to our land use table, for mobile home, manufactured home, travel trailer, and camper sales and rentals, according to our land use tables, are not allowed mobile home parks. And that's all mobile home parks do. So again, this is an ordinance change that I would bring to the Area Planning Commission to a public hearing to get that corrected, to move it forward to the commissioners and the other legislative bodies.
Okay, so we'll be looking forward to that.
So that's just wanting to let you guys know.
Okay. All right, anything else, Ryan?
That's it on those two, or those three.
Okay, moving on. Number 6, old business. Review of rules and procedures. For the sake of time, I'm going to suggest that we clarify some of the questions that we had for Mr. Glickfield from our last meeting. And then, Ryan, I'm going to ask you to prepare a document that has the most current,
Okay.
and then for us to review.
So in what was handed out to you, we had 6 questions that came out.
Okay. Does everyone have a copy?
Is that what this thing is?
Yep. So the 6 questions we have, we start on, I believe, page 6. What is in red is what we talked about, discussed, or I got with Mr. Glickfield to get an answer.
Page 6.
Yes, we do.
We all have the same document. That'd be correct.
So for 8.2.5, that we had discussed, that is word for word with Indiana code.
Okay.
8.2.5.1 is what we added, basically saying that should I lose someone or need to hire, I can start the application process, I can do everything up to hiring them before I come to you guys.
Okay.
How is that different than what we already had? That's what our past practice has been.
Well, if you'll remember, Dr. Bothell, we had a couple of times where I had the former president make me wait 3 weeks before I could even start the application process. There's been a couple of times where I couldn't get the okay to do it until the next meeting. So it took us one short for a month to one short for 2.5 months. So this was.
I'm trying to remember back to, but, the indication has always been, in my 14 or 15 years here, that you would have the discretion to, if we had an open position and it's a staff position that works under you, to interview, to do the procurement kind of thing, and to get it down to 2 or 3 candidates, or perhaps a single candidate, and then come back with a recommendation commission to actually make the appointment and to set the hours and fringe benefits, whatever it is, wages, that sort of thing.
And we
So
discussed that, plus off of your
So
suggestion.
if we didn't do that before,
You had made the suggestion that I would at least get with the president. And during our 18th meeting, I think it was pretty much, well, why would we even cost that? Why don't we just
Yes.
go?
Okay.
So that's why that's added, just to
Yeah.
point it out.
I think that was the intent of past practice to begin with.
Right.
Okay, anything else, Brian?
That's it on that.
Okay. Do we have red on number 9?
Yep. And this pulls us back into what we were discussing earlier. We had discussed the shall to begin with, and wanted to know, did shall also include we know on a subdivision for less is a minor, we've got limits on like solar 10 acres or less is a minor. We didn't know if shall needed to be everything. So we talked about separating it. So we did shall on the major and may on the minors. My thoughts on that are, there may be some smaller ones that I look at and think, oh, this is way too much, it needs to go. It lets us do the smaller ones on a case-by-case basis, for the most part. Is getting through drainage and road use, is all that more than I can do before the next meeting? You know what I'm saying? It kind of lets me say, okay, I've got time, I can get this done and get it prepared for you, or this is more than I got time for, we're gonna need engineering on this, or, So it kind of lets me make that, yeah, I can get it done, or I can't, on minor.
Okay. Considering Mr. Bothwell's concerns in regard to that technical advisory committee, I'm going to suggest that at the end of where it says, if deemed necessary by the executive director, that I want to add and approved by the area planning commission. Anybody have a problem with that?
I think that might not be a bad idea. So that's still gonna come.
That clears it up for me.
So please add that to the next revision that we get for our review.
Could I also ask, which I noted before, is there possibility of adding into this subdivision, commercial solar, et cetera, contained animal feeding operations?
I don't know why we couldn't.
Yeah, easy enough.
I would like for us to do that so that we'd have
Yes.
protection for people like Mr. Holloway, who I feel was treated unfairly because of our rules and regulations.
Okay, you got that, everybody? Nicole, Katie? All right, Ryan, let's move on. Looks like on page 8, we have some red.
I did want to ask on 9.2, I made notes on it, but with the list we've had, I would also like to add member of the Area Plan Commission and member of the BZA.
Okay, we're going to add that to the bottom of 9.2.9.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to add a BZA member and an APC member. And you guys can figure out the numerical on that, yes. All right, moving on. For the sake of time, page 8.
This was for David, we discussed the difference between recess and tabled.
So if you recess a meeting because it goes too long or for whatever reason, open door law requires that you announce the date, the time, and the location, and you cannot add any new items to that recessed meeting because you've already advertised what you're meeting for. So you can recess the meeting, but you have to announce at the meeting those things.
Does 10.8 read sufficient for you?
Any meeting may be recessed from day to day or to the time of meeting.
So no need to rewrite that. You're good with that?
Yep, that, I think that satisfies the other goal.
I think the thing that made it click for me was one's published, one's not.
Okay? So we're cleared up on number 10.8. All right, 10.9. The top of page 9.
Randy, you had the question, is that word for word code? It is.
That's for 10.9, that
Yeah.
starts on page 8.
Okay? All right, page 9, we're moving to 10.10.2. Respond to that, Ryan?
10.10. It was pointed out that in our notice of public hearing, that we did not have in there the yard sign.
Okay?
So we added the yard sign. I think it's in our application, but it's not in here. That was a heck of a catch. I can't remember who called it.
Okay. Any other additions as we hold the meeting on 10.8, or, well, page 12. 11.5.
This is our representation of applicant. Before it said the petitioner, petitioner's attorney, or their representative. Spoke with David. David said he would rather see or their power of attorney must be present. You want to expound on any of that?
We good?
I will. Certainly the petitioner's attorney has the power to bind the petitioner, and/or their power of attorney has the legal ability to do that through the power of attorney. There could be times when conditions or strings might be put on whatever it is they might be asking for. And if a representative that is there who is not petitioner, not petitioner attorney, or their power of attorney, go ahead and agrees, I could see a situation where the actual petitioner might come forward and say, well, I never agreed to that. And it just seems to me you're protected legally if you go this route. So it just makes a lot more sense to me to have it worded like this.
Okay. We will take your recommendation unless someone here feels differently. Okay.
That's what we're paying for.
That's right. All right, any other red? Oh, I see a little on 14, 12.7.
Oh, I forgot, that's our roll call vote.
Okay.
I just forgot to block it out.
Okay. We're good with that. So just to clarify, our mission with the rules and procedures will be to receive a copy for review with all the updates that have been made up to this point. At that point, I'm going to ask that everyone spend some time to review those, and please note any questions you may have about that copy that's submitted, and hopefully we can have some discussion about that and bring closure to this. Comments?
If I may, on the very last page, 17.9, because of action taken here tonight, we should have Randy Atkins rather than Mr. Greedy.
Sure.
So that, yeah, when it comes time for signatures, that
Yeah.
Chuck, you don't have to own it.
I was hoping we could get this done before I left.
All right.
Randy, I trust that you will get this accomplished in short order.
We'll do our
We've come a
best.
long way. Now, get it to the goal line like a football game.
All right, number 7, reports, resolutions, communications, general discussion. David Glickfield.
December was quiet. I don't think we had any court appearances in December. I think we had some scheduled.
No, Kirstoff
No,
got
it
moved.
got rescheduled.
It was Kirstoff.
Yeah, so, quiet for December.
Okay. All right, Executive Director, Mr. Millat.
Just a couple things, starting off, Katie did get her first demolition done last week, so, we are off and running. She has, got numerous things heading for court. We've got about 5 right now that are demo contract.
Demo contractor court ordered, they're getting ready, it's just getting them through the process, asbestos check and all that fun stuff, so.
So we're starting to get a stockpile, so when the highway department's ready to go, we've got some ready to go.
So one of our big cases, which is what I was trying to mention here, Overman Drive, which has been a big issue for the last couple of years. We are actually finally started with the court order giving us access now. We are starting with the asbestos on the,
December the 9th, or January the 9th, I'm sorry.
there we go. One of our main case houses that's been an issue that we've had complaints on from several different people that I've started on. She's finally getting the demolition done. So there's a big one.
This is health department, this has been police department numerous times.
Wherever the sheriffs are, they could tell you.
Sheriffs, yeah, so, this has been one that when we go, we all go and with protection, and, so we're finally to a point of getting it now. There's some other stories that could do with that house, but we won't say.
No, we're just starting that one. That was the main one.
So I just want to let you know, we're starting to get our momentum going. We're starting to get them lined up. We're getting cases, getting out, getting through all the cases, getting familiar with everything, so. Also wanted to touch base, Jonesboro, we had talked last month about them coming in for a TIF district. They will be in next month, just to kind of let you know. And I'll give out some information with that too, with the packet, so everyone can read up on what TIF districts are in case you don't know. We did meet with the new mayor of Jonesboro, talked to him a little bit about what his expectations were. We had a great relationship with Mayor McNutt. He was real good about giving us lists of, hey, can you go check these out? So we had a really good meeting with Mayor Goins. RFQs, I have those for Randy, Frank, and Dr. Bothwell. Please don't let me forget to hand them out. The other thing I would ask that probably you look at possibly doing an executive committee meeting here in the near future. Our Aaron situation, we've got to figure out something on that because what the council has done has fallen off now at this point.
Okay,
I don't want to go too deep here, but
sure.
it would be something that we need to.
Mr. Glickfield, would you recommend that not be a public discussion?
It is covered under the open door law as being able to be discussed in executive session. I highly recommend that for potential legal ramifications, but any action would need to be taken in a full public meeting.
Okay, and I am going to request an executive session. We've got performance reviews that we've not completed. And Ryan, I'd like to ask in regard to your staff reviews. I'm an educator. Evaluation is huge in the field of education. I believe it has to be here as well. If we plan to improve in our performance, it must be evident that we are provided feedback. So.
Yeah, I've got them done. They're ready for you.
Okay. Well, we need to still schedule an executive session.
Let me know if you want me in any executive session.
Okay. And I'm going to wait till we get the commission intact before we do that. Okay? Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Ryan, I want an email that I want to have you kind of respond to. Did you guys get it? And as I stated, transparency is a mission that I'm going to try and bring to the table in this commission, and I have some concerns. This was sent to us. I received it. I'm not sure who else received it. I think it was in regard to the RFQs that you've talked about and the grant from Mike. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. David, is there anything that would prevent me from being able to read this publicly?
Let me finish glancing at it
Okay.
real quick, just to make sure. No.
Nothing. Okay. So I guess, Ryan, the part that concerns me a little bit is it says that, now, do you want to, I want to confirm that you agree that this was a correspondence that took place between you and Mike Kleinpepper, Peter?
Peter, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to confirm that that did occur, okay. I have received the RFQs and another inquiry. I haven't seen the RFQ in the paper yet, but I might have missed it. I have a lot of moving parts with the previous election, upcoming election, even with standard yearly elections within the commissioners and APC for president and vice president. Up to a quarter of the APC could be changing come January 1. Believe even the commissioners may be changing their rep from Steve Wright to Ron Stewart on the APC. That was a very accurate prediction because I think all that occurred.
Yeah.
It says expected in 2024 before July. Invenergy Commercial Solar Project, $200 million project. Gen X Commercial Solar Project, $200 million project. Your Digital Phase 2 Bitcom operations, $125 million project.
Great.
All of which will come through this office. I am hoping to have the comp plan well underway prior to getting buried with the above projects. My fear is that changes to the APC Commission, we have a group of individuals that will try to sandbag everything above. That statement concerns me greatly. I would hope that anybody sitting on this commission would have the best interest of the taxpayers and residents of Grant County, and that sandbagging would not be an act that would be demonstrated. The other thing I'm concerned about, Ryan, is it appears that you have some knowledge in regard to some solar projects that I don't know that any of the rest of us are aware of.
Well,
And I'm going to give you the opportunity to respond. I'm going to request that solar be added to the agenda from this meeting forward, and that any update of communications that have taken place in regard to solar development be shared publicly with us. And I'm going to ask that that be with solar companies. I'm going to ask that that be with commissioners. Is there anything, David, that's not legal up to this point that I've asked for?
As long as there's not a non-disclosure agreement executed on, for example, which I'm just speculating. I know in economic growth type situations, prospective businesses, whatever it may be, a factory, a whatever, a lot of times they don't want that information getting out for whatever reason they might personally have, so they'll have non-disclosure agreements that are executed. If an NDA is executed, it could, and I don't want to say solar or Bitcoin or anything, then it could cost the county that development.
Who would they be executed with? Who would receive those?
Generally, it's going to be, like, I'll give you an example in Gas City. It might be the city engineer, it might be the mayor, could be myself as attorney. So in county government, it might very well be the commissioners. I don't know if they have an engineer per se on staff. I don't think they do. Potentially Mr. Persinger is their attorney. That would generally be who it is.
So if there were disclosure statements that you're referencing, would Ryan be privy to that information from the commissioners?
No.
Okay, so he wouldn't have anything to report to us that would fall under that category?
Correct. You had said commissioners, though, I think, when you asked
I
the
did say
question. And I wanted to make sure you
Okay.
understood they potentially could be taken out by that.
Okay. Anybody opposed to the request that I've just made for solar to be added to our agenda so that any updates can be shared with us? Do we need a motion for that, or?
I don't think it's a bad idea to have a motion. It always helps.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
second? From Tyson?
No, me.
Right. Okay. So we have a motion, Mr. Bothwell, second, from Mr. Hicks. Roll call vote.
Breedy?
Yes.
Bothwell? Caudell?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, thank you. We do have public comment, folks. I'm sorry it wasn't on the agenda, but that is going to be item number 8. Okay. So, please be respectful. Appreciate everyone's attendance tonight. We're going to limit it to 3 minutes. Ryan, would you help us with that, please?
Did you want me to?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Moving on. Ball game, Phil.
So on this, we know that Invenergy and Gen X are both in queue.
Okay.
Okay, we knew last year that they were just short of their projected. We've seen the plats now that say that, I mean, we have enough plats right now from the maps I've seen.
Who's we?
Everyone sitting in here. I've been handed the plat maps and all that sort of stuff. I figured everyone had seen them.
I don't think that'd be
Not
safe.
from the solar companies, from whoever's going up to the recorder's office. I've been handed all those maps. And according to those maps, we've got enough solar signed up for like 4 commercial solar projects, not just 1 or 2. So, and knowing that last year that they had those projects out, we're guessing if they were a year out, that would be July. We know Your Choice Digital is coming in April.
Mr. Blickfield, what's the protocol? Have some order. We don't smell smoke yet.
without really knowing what was going on. And I don't know that I know yet, but I think I'm gonna get it figured out with everybody's help. All right. Okay, Ryan, please.
So again, with the commercial projects, we know enough land is signed up. We know when we discussed before that they were around a year out, which I would put as July. We're adding the Your Choice Digital, which is phase 2 of the Bitcoin operation. My note at the bottom as far as sandbagging, this is basically, I put to Mike, that we've got several moving parts. We could have 1 or 2 solar projects coming. We have a comprehensive plan going. We also got Your Choice Digital going, that we could have a ton of stuff going at one time. And I have said this forever, that this office could get ran over, should that was my point. Because we've said in here,
Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, when you're done.
You know, we've said in here, like we talk about rules of procedure. Indiana Planning Association says that would be a 2-month exercise. We're at 2 years, 2 months, trying to get it finished. That's my concern. When we get in here and these projects come in, the clock starts. I mean, once they come out of advisory committee, there's 60 days to public hearing. There's 10 days to certification. So once these things start, you can't just stop.
Who sets the 60-day time frame?
That's your Indiana code. Same thing that we did for ordinances.
David, is there any possibility of ever asking for an extension of that in the event that we wouldn't be coming together as planned?
Off the top of my head, I would say I don't know why you couldn't, but I don't have that code in front of me, and I don't want to give you an ironclad answer to that.
Could you look into that for us, please? I don't like being under pressure,
Sure.
okay?
That's,
I don't like being under pressure. So please look into that. I don't want that to be a determining factor for us to move without making sure that we've considered all
sure.
impact.
That is my concerns, is that it's boom, 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 boom. And I don't have time to get it done.
Anything else to add?
Because I would add this, and I know this room, we have a lot of anti-solar in here, and I get that. But regardless if the powers that be are for or against solar, we are still going to run through the motions. I mean, by code, if it gets turned in and it meets, the application meets, then we have to move forward in a timely fashion. Whether or not we know from day one it's going to be yes or going to be no, advisory committee has to be brought together. This committee has to be brought together. It has to go to everyone. So, I mean, regardless of what we do, this is going to be time consuming on every project we do. And these are 3 huge projects while we try to slip a comprehensive plan in too.
I don't like anti-solar.
I'm sorry.
What I'm hearing is that there are residents who are concerned about the current ordinance and whether they will be impacted and whether they're being protected. That's what I'm hearing from the public. So please
But again,
consider.
I mean, my concerns with this was to Mr. Kleinpeter, who's doing our grants and doing our RFQs, was we've got to get this moving before we start having bombs drop on us.
Is there any, go ahead, I'm sorry, Jim.
As a drainage board member, you know, I'm not a sandbagger, but I'm not gonna be in any hurry to approve this drainage on these, couple of these properties that have signed up are in 120-year-old 24-inch tile that farmers do pay maintenance on, but in order to redo that tile, you're talking about $500,000. And the tile is 120 years old, it's 24-inch, drains hundreds of acres. And right now, the solar people have signed up some of these farms. That tile's running through there at an easement, 75 feet from center of tile, that they're not even aware of. We don't know where the mutual drains are coming in at. And I'm not gonna hurry through anything to do with drainage.
But you won't.
To get an answer.
You're part of the technical advisory committee, so you're not
Well, I'm
constrained
not sure I'm
by
gonna
time.
satisfy them.
But I'm just saying, once we move past that and I hand it to this commission, the clock starts. Okay. And that's what, we could have a lot of clocks going all at once on major projects to where, you know, we may have to meet every other week or more just to keep up. That's my fear.
Okay, this grant is written to revise the comprehensive plan. What, I don't understand why the comprehensive plan is gonna bear whether these applications are submitted. We have a comprehensive plan.
Because the comprehensive plan, we've got to facilitate it. So, I mean, it's going to be some work for the office, who's also trying to do work on everything else too.
Okay,
I mean, it's hitting all the towns, it's on top of our ordinance stuff that's hitting all the towns. On top of, if these projects come in, what it's gonna take to get that facilitated, to get it to the advisory committee and put together, not one, but possibly two.
do we have timeframes on this grant for the comprehensive plan that we must meet?
Yeah, we're meeting the 26th because the deadline is,
I'm saying, do we
February
have a
19th.
time frame that we must have met the conditions of the grant?
we haven't got the grant yet. We're eligible.
Okay.
We have to pick the company, and then the company has to agree to do it for the $60,000 that we're eligible for. And once we have that, that's what'll come out of scoring committee, is what we send forward by February 18th. We find out, or I think it's 18th. We find out a month later in March whether or not we got the grant. If we got the grant, then we're off and running with whatever company we picked.
I just know what trying to beat a time thing resulted with the ordinance. That we were pushed to try and get something in the books before July 1, trying to avoid what the state might mandate to us. And look where we're at.
In that case, that was the same situation. Once the Area Plan Commission got it in November, it had 60 days to get it to public hearing, and it took 6 months.
I'm just saying that I think that if we hadn't been faced with that July anticipation of the state coming out with an ordinance, that we may have been able to develop an ordinance that was more pleasing than the one that we have now, based on whoever has feelings about it. Okay. Anything else? Members? Anything to add?
I have a question that, along with a little bit of what Jim said, I've got a little bit of concern about some wells that's been drilled out there in the past and capped, and so who knows where those are. I mean, I hope we take that in consideration when we start driving pilings in the ground too, because that could be a bad thing for everybody also.
Talking about gas wells?
Natural gas, yeah, and oil, yeah. I know, it hadn't been that many years ago, they came through and freshened some of those up, recapped them and did some work out there. It's been a little while, but I am concerned about that a little bit.
Anybody else? Okay, public comments. Trying to give a half hour here if possible. Please sign in, state your name, keep it short, be respectful.
Cale Grindle from Jonesboro. Randy, congratulations.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, by the way. It'd be nice to see this part of the government put on the Atkins diet, clean it up a little bit. The first thing you said really brought up, you made a comment to Mr. Glickfield to help him with anything that may be illegal. David, we brought it up in the past, and maybe it was maybe you had already said something about it, but the fact that ordinance draft 7 is legal based on the public hearing, draft 4 never had a public hearing, so I wondered if you had a chance to tell at least the APCs, their commissioners, which particular ordinance is legal.
You know, I've learned a lot since I was asked that question. It appears that the procedures were probably, I'm gonna say, because I've not heard from the commissioners or their attorney, I've been trying to get a hold of him for a while now, to ask him that question. But the bottom line is, the only way we're gonna know that is for someone who's affected by that to file some sort of declaratory action and ask the court if that ordinance is a valid ordinance. That's the only way I see how anyone is going to really have an answer to that question.
So wouldn't it make sense then to put a hold on any applications that could come in based on that ordinance? Based on the question of the legality of the ordinance?
My fear on that is if you do that, and obviously I just saw those for the first time, the amounts of those projects. If it's done and we're wrong, the potential damages to the county could be astronomical. And now, I'm not the county attorney, I'm only here for these guys. But that type of action would be incredibly risky and could subject the county to a huge lawsuit. That's why I say the safest way to handle it is when someone comes forward who's affected, maybe it's a local resident next to it who is concerned about their property value going down because of it, hiring an attorney and filing what's called a declaratory action. In other words, you're asking a judge to make a ruling on, is this valid or is this not valid? From what I've heard, I think there's an argument that it's not valid, but, I'm not the one the judge is ultimately making that decision.
So based on what you just said, there has to be a damaged party. And potentially damaged, yes. Well, I think it's pretty obvious that there's no way that this solar stuff's not going to damage anything at all. So it would only make sense to me, you don't have to respond to this, it only makes sense to me to put some sort of hold on this because of the potential of massive amounts of damage to the county. And I don't mean just the residents, but as far as the budget,
Yeah, and that's their decision.
yeah. So I know you guys are only recommendations, but it you hold a lot of weight with the commissioners. Another thing I would like to bring up is welcome the GeneX people in the background here. I would like you guys to see the faces of the people who will make sure you guys don't get your bonuses from Grant County. Just and roll it on the TV too. Kind of off script here. I don't have a script. Okay, I'm breaking up. I'm drawing a blank on your name. Ryan. You mentioned that something about the Posey County. What was that again? At the start of the meeting.
Posey County has a solar development plan online that's visible.
Okay, so are you wanting to copy that because the Posey County ordinance only has what I'll say is a very it has 100-foot setbacks, so they're very pro-solar in that.
I actually found the Posey County because of a discussion in the drainage board. They were putting together a checklist.
So wouldn't it make sense for us to think that maybe you're wanting to copy this application based off the very pro-solar ordinance that was passed by Posey County?
It had to do with showing the drainage board what a drainage plan actually looks like. They thought they were going to come up with a page or two checklist on drainage, and the drainage plan for Posey County was about that thing.
So it's not the fact that Posey County's is even less restrictive than the illegal draft 4.
It's because I found Posey County is one of the few I've found online that's available.
Okay.
For public.
All right. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Please state your name, sign in.
As long as the fire alarm doesn't go off, be okay. I about jumped out of my skin. Todd Glancy, Fairmount.
Oh, sorry.
What?
Wrong one, my bad.
Oh, this one, okay. I'm gonna change what I was gonna say a little bit. So, what I wanted to say to begin with, you guys have added it in to what you were talking about as far as the different, not just solar or wind, but you're also talking about adding in farm operations, right? Livestock. My point that I want to bring out is bring it to a different perspective, okay? Mankind's been raising livestock for thousands of years, right? We should kind of know how to do that. But it still takes for a farm operation to build and maintain and run a farm operation. We got to come in and they have to come in and do a zoning, right? To build a new operation. And it's not easy and it's not quick, right? And it should be. It should be looked over to look at the rest of the community and how it affects it. But we still do that for something that we've done as human beings for thousands of years. To put in perspective of what solar is it was, I want to get my dates right, 1905, 119 years ago. We have a young lady back here that's almost that old. We're talking about one generation of human beings have been on the, that's this young lady back here. Just before you were born, the first paper by Albert Einstein was written confirming and describing electric solar energy, okay? And that's just one lifetime, just 119 years. And then as I looked through like the major achievements in solar, and they talk about the metals and materials that they put on the cathodes and the anodes, okay? None of these things sound good. None of these things that you want in your water system. You know, cadmium sulfate, selenium, silicone, cadmium sulfide, copper sulfites, cadmium telluride, gallium phosphide, and gallium arsenide. And arsenide is a derivative of arsenic, okay? You put all these things out, it's okay, and it's a good experiment, right, to do on private property, on maybe schools in a small area. We're talking about covering miles of area with something that's absolutely in the R&D phase. There's no way around that. In 2000, just this morning, it was just this morning, I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can. I read an article from MIT, and it was a technology review. And there's what they're calling a new solar technology, a real breakthrough, okay? They've been working on that for 10 years, and they probably have another 10 years to go. And the problem they're having with that is moisture and heat get to it. Well, you know, these things are outside. So there's not been a huge amount of advancements. There's a lot of dangers here. And, you know, what I really like about the ordinance that we have in place, whether it's 7 or 4, I don't want to get in that battle, that's not my battle, okay, is that the ordinance says that to assure, it's in item B at the very first part, 153.707. It states to assure that the development and production of solar generated electricity in Grant County, Indiana is safe and effective. So the 3 key words I see in that is assure, that's assuring us that it's safe and effective. And from my lines of work before, when you talk about something needs to be safe, I wrote a report, and it was a safety assessment for that report, and it was just a small change in the lab, okay? But we had to write a report for that. That's just within an industry. Anybody here that works at any kind of place realizes that you do any kind of changes, you do a safety review of those changes in that workplace. We're doing major differences in the county for a lot of people. And so, like issues that you're talking about for drainage, wells, I never thought of that. You know, I haven't sat down and made a list, but I think we're not doing ourselves any good by looking at a checklist, for crying out loud, for R&D projects they're wanting to put in our backyard. So to assure all of us that these research projects are safe, the public needs to have all the information to know all of the details of the projects, exactly what technology is being used, exactly what other materials being used. How does it affect our community, our welfare? Really effective. Sure, it makes some electricity, but is it truly effective? From what I have seen and where I put numbers together myself, is our electric bills are going to go up with this type of technology that we have today. We're not ready for this large scale. And so you put me in the camp of anti-solar. I like it. I want it to come along, right? But the technology is simply not there. So what I, am suggesting here is the technology reviews need to be very deep, just very deep. This is not established technology, okay? If they want to say it's, we've got years of history behind it, it just doesn't hold water. We've got thousands of years of experience and history raising livestock, and we still critically review it. And that's good. We all agree with that. So, and then just to close my statement, I feel, and I think a lot of other people feel that's way also, is the federal government, the state government, and our local governments are letting us down, letting our citizens down. And this is where we have to draw a line in the sand, and we all have to do our parts. Bring your family and friends. Let's start talking about all these things. Because it's not just solar, there's a lot of other issues too. But my recommendation is that. Thank you so much for your time.
Anyone else like to speak, please? State your name, sign, address.
Good evening, Ed Hartman. I'm going to get a little bit technical here. I'm going to try not to get too much. In preparing an ordinance, Indiana Code 3674-603, in preparing and considering proposals under the 600 series, the Plan Commission and the legislative body shall pay reasonable regard to, 1, the comprehensive plan. I'll come back to that. 2, current conditions and the character of current structures and uses in each district. 3, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. The conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction, and responsible development and growth. I think our ordinances do not cover all that very well. The comprehensive plan. Suddenly we want to rush through a new comprehensive plan. Why? We know that APA guidelines say you should take at least a year to redo your comprehensive plan. And it should be an open process involving the community through many meetings and gathering input and finding out what's important to your community, as well as have people from the various boards and commissioners involved. There should be no surprises. When this is done, everybody that wanted to be involved should be involved. This is important. It's critical. The comprehensive plan is the plan for this community going forward 15, 20 years. Communities that need to review it every 5 years are communities that are under phenomenal growth. Things are changing rapidly. That doesn't quite fit us. We can stretch out a little longer probably. current conditions and the character of current structures and uses in each district, agriculture, zoned land. When we think of agriculture, we think of farms, we think of livestock, we think of corn, beans, tomatoes, and other crops. Now, do we think of industrial solar generators? I don't. That was the furthest thing from my mind coming here. Most of us that live in the country because we want to, and we enjoy it. And we like to look out a window and see a long ways, and see the land. And we don't really mind hearing a tractor run in the harvest season or in the springtime. Conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. The courts are upholding property value guarantees because property near these solar installations will be devalued greatly. These were presented to the State Court of Appeals and upheld. Houses surrounded by a solar farm on 3 or 4 sides will be worthless. Houses affected on 2 sides will suffer approximately 40% decrease in value. Houses within 1 mile of a solar farm will suffer 10 to 40% decrease in value. Houses within 3 miles of a solar farm will suffer 10 to 20% loss. When you look at these maps, as some of us have done, the yellow solar farms, okay? That's near Gas City. Jefferson Platte, look at all those yellow spots. They're randomly all over the place. Van Buren, same thing. We have a planning department. This is not a plan. This is random, turning greed loose in our county and finding somebody that is willing to destroy his neighbor.
Exactly. You're right.
This is not planning. Planning is when the area plan department says we would consider solar farms in Grant County, and we're going to choose the area. And we may make it 400 acres, or you may make it 1,000 acres, or you may make it 200 acres. But that's your plan. You put together a plan. You say where it's going to go. It's this useless property that can't be farmed, can't be used. Maybe it had some industrial use before, but that's where it goes. And you're going to say, this is going to be where it's set aside. This is where it's going to be zoned for. You don't put these in agricultural land. You zone something for this, and if somebody wants to develop it, they got to buy it. Or they got to lease it, no matter what the price is, and they may have to buy the houses surrounding it, because we all know that's not going to be a good deal, and those people are going to want to sue. But maybe there'd be a dozen of them. Here, we're looking at maybe 600 houses, and we don't even know where they're all going. This is just what we have seen recorded in the recorder's office, but we've had at least one solar company refuse to tell us where their leases are and refuse to record them in our recorder's office. Now, there is a state law that says if leases are longer than 3 years, they're to be recorded within 45 days of signing.
And I have a concern. We have 747 miles of county easement drains. We've got a few thousand miles of mutual drains. Plus, we have the river that runs through us. Now, if, and I asked one of the representatives, what's the wind velocity that these things can handle? And they said they didn't know, but there's got to be, that's got to be somewhere. But say you have a big hailstorm. This has happened in other places. You have a big hailstorm and then it rains all night. Well, whatever's leaching out of these is going to travel that waterway. It's not going to affect the people just that lives around it. It's going to come down Taylor Creek. It's going to come down Pipe Creek. It's going to run by people's wells. And I can see the ground being greatly contaminated at certain times because of Indiana's weather.
Now, we have two ordinances. We don't know which one the court will end up siding with.
And I'm gonna give you another person's time, so make it quick.
Okay.
I just thought I needed to state that because I worry about our water quality.
Yeah, there are a lot of concerns, and they're big concerns, and they're not exaggerated, and they're not blown up. These are things that are happening elsewhere in this country. Now, in California, they've been doing this for about 20 years. And you know what? According to the Harvard Business Review, their dumps are filling up with solar panels, and they're worried about the chemicals, the dangerous chemicals that are in them, breaking out when the solar cells break and leaching out eventually into groundwater. Do we want that concern here in Indiana? Maybe we seem to overlook any problems. We're not learning from somebody else. We're just going ahead. The solar companies came here and they signed up whoever would sign up for them. And that's why you see this map that looks ridiculous. It looks like there is no plan, because there was no plan. And there was a solar ordinance, draft 4, developed to please the solar companies, not regulate them. That's all I got to say for the moment.
We've got about 15 minutes. All right, we've got about 14 minutes. Anybody else?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the APC. Mr. Atkins, congrats on your new appointment. I'm going to try to be quick. Here's the pen. I'm Dallas Street. I'm over from the Van Buren area. I was at the last meeting, and I'll say this again. Everyone in this room can talk about how bad solar is, so I'm not going to waste your time. I want to talk about some other things. Roland Rosario is on the screen. He's been in this entire meeting. For those of you that don't know, he's the Vice President of Project Development for GeneX Solar, right? So this meeting's obviously pretty important to him. He must have found out that we're a little bit pissed off. Trina Rodebush, she's the Director of Community Relations. Can you raise your hand? Right here, taking notes. Director to me means I'm in charge. Do you want the rest of my 3 minutes? Do you want to come talk? You're more than welcome. Okay, it won't be about solar. Everyone else can talk about solar. But Director of Community Relations, so I hope you write down everything you're hearing, okay? Because we're going to fight this tooth and nail. Mr. Malott, I'm going to focus on you. I think you're confused about what the term sandbagging means. In my previous professional background, I use the term frequently. Sandbagging is to slow something down and to weigh something down. So when we hear your email read aloud talking about the APC or the citizens sandbagging this for you, we all know what it means, regardless of how you try to twist it. We know what it means. And that email just sealed the deal on what your intentions are. So I'm going to tell you the same thing I'm going to tell Mr. Rosario. This is Rodebush. We're coming for you. Mr. Breedy, thank you for stepping down. We appreciate that. We've learned what we needed to learn. We appreciate you stepping down. Mr. Malott, it is my suggestion that you listen to the citizens of the county and maybe recommend to the commissioners they vote on a moratorium until we can figure out what's going on. Because we're not going to stop. I said at the last meeting, we'll keep coming back. We may not have 250 plus. When it warms up, we might get back to that number. If we're not being heard, we'll probably get back to that number. And I'll tell you right now, we're growing. Our numbers are growing. Our email list is growing. Mr. Glickfield, you mentioned a lawsuit to figure out which ordinance is legal. I have a feeling that's on the way. Just a heads up. There are a bunch of us that'll be affected. We have, from Mr. Malott's words, we have until July to figure out what we're doing. So we have from now until July to come forward with this lawsuit. Again, I'll leave you all with this. We're coming, and I don't think we're going to stop until this industrial solar thing stops, because we are firm believers in what this county was made of and what it should continue to run on. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Bozell, and I live north of Marion out by Jalapa. I have a couple of things I would like to point out in response to his comments about a hailstorm and rain. Has anybody in this county ever heard of a tornado? Has anyone ever had one hit their property? Okay, so, because I have. And during that tornado, and it wasn't even a bad tornado, I lost a building. I lost doors off of buildings, overhead doors that were sucked in off of my building and ended up a half mile from my home. And they were attached to a building. I have a neighbor that was 2 miles away, had a semi-trailer parked in his, out by his building, not attached to a truck or tractor. It ended up, parts of it, the sides of it ripped off on my property. What's a solar panel going to do? They're made of glass. And all the chemicals that are contained within. So after the tornado hit, we got 3.5 inches of rain that night. What do you think happened to those chemicals? They didn't stay where the solar panels were. They were in the creeks. Any of those chemicals, they would have been in our wells. They would have been in the creeks and the streams and ultimately the rivers and the reservoirs. Do you all want to drink that? Because I know I don't. Do you want your children and your grandchildren to drink that? What's going to happen when there's no drinkable water? Not just for us, but also for wildlife. So I did a little bit of research on how these solar panels affect wildlife. And we all know what migratory birds are. We're greatly affected by them, and we get to see them. We get to have some of them here, as in eagles. I've been seeing a lot of eagles around our part of the county lately, and I'm sure many of you have as well. You know what eagles see a solar field as? A body of water. And they dive down to it to get a prey, and they die. Migratory birds, waterfowl, pelicans, same thing. Do we not care what's going to happen? I mean, you may not care about your neighbor, but do you even care about what happens to the animals? I mean, this is stuff that nobody's really even talking about, and has anybody even really thought about it or researched it? Because the information's out there, and it's deadly to almost all wildlife. The noise that is emitted from one of these solar industrial plants is at 60 feet away. Is annoying to say the least. Deer, turkey, rabbits, they're not going to stay around. I mean, I'd be fine if it runs the coyotes off, and I think everybody else would too. But regardless, what's going to happen to the wildlife? They're going to leave. They can't be around it. Just something to think about. Thank you for your time.
Two more, please. Two more people would like to speak. We're going to limit it to 2. Anyone else?
I'm Byron Brankle. I don't have to sign my name. Everybody in Grant County knows me. I've been on the county council on the area plan for 8 years until I was taken off this year by this guy and a couple commissioners. And, but when I first heard about solar, when we had that meeting at the 4-H park, I thought, well, we've got 3 commissioners that's going to turn our land and everything over to these solar companies? I mean, think about that. 3 people and 1 area plan director that can turn everything that keeps us functioning in Grant County, turn it over to waste. I mean, we're 3rd-generation farmers. You know what we do? We grow food. We support our church. We support our missionaries. When Haiti was hit with a earthquake, WGM called and wanted to know if we could send some corn. You know what we done? We sent a whole semi-load of corn. We had it bagged over here in Gaston, and Tom Hicks drove it down the border. That's what we do. What's going to happen if the solar companies get control of Grant County, we're not gonna have any young farmers. None. Right now, we have, thanks to our commissioners and our area plan director, we have the biggest bunch of hate out here in the country that we have never had before. Farmers all got along, worked together. Look at it now. Chuck Breedy, or not Chuck Breedy, but can't think what the, I'll think of it in a minute. He said for Grant County to grow and develop business, you've got to become solar. Okay. Weaver Popcorn in Van Buren right now is going to do a $31 million expansion right in Van Buren. You know what they found out? They found out that all that land west of them going for a mile signed up for solar. And they said, we're not going to support that. There's no way. We're not going to allow solar to come up against us. And I'm going to say one thing right now. Anybody that signs up, I've said this before, they have two apologies. You apologize to God and every one of your neighbors. And I'll tell you, just like this gentleman said, we're going to win this. We're not going to turn all this over to the solar companies. And I've got, if that affects our commissioners, and Ryan, I'll tell you where you can go. Get you a job with a solar company.
Yeah. One more. We've got 3 minutes. Please keep it short. 3 minutes.
Don't tread on me. Jackie Sheets, Southern Grant County. Don't tread on me. Don't tread on me. Don't tread on me. That's all I got to say.
All right, we'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank everyone for coming. Appreciate your comments. Look forward to it the next time. Motion by Tyson Knuckles. Second by Chuck Breedy. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. So,